Welcome to Gray Maybe, a podcast and social experiment based on this season's topic, abuse. My name is Jillian Schmitz. I'm a professional dancer, actor, teacher, author, artist, mother, and cat lover. Through my own personal journey of recovery, I've found that things aren't just black or white, or a simple yes or no. For me, in my recovery, there has been mostly gray area and a lot of maybes. In most of my stories, you can find the gray maybe. I will be sharing my own process through personal stories and interviews with others in an effort to destigmatize, bring awareness, and find recovery from many types of abuse. If you'd like to share your story, please email graymaybestories@gmail.com. graymaybestories@gmail.com. Before we get started, if you haven't already, please subscribe on whichever platform you're using to catch future episodes of Gray Maybe. A note before we begin. My stories and the stories of others on this podcast are told through the lens of our own experience. The revelation of our process is ours to tell. If you disagree with the views or stories on this podcast, know that we are not speaking on anything other than our own experiences and viewpoints. Take what you like and leave the rest. Nothing expressed or mentioned in this podcast is an endorsement or is meant to be taken as advice. It is strictly the sharing of our own experiences and our own recovery. Any feelings this podcast activates in the listener is for the listener to process and recover from. Any criticism you have based on these experiences and choices are yours, and they are not anyone else's burden to carry. Trigger warning: rape, sexual assault, sexual abuse, physical abuse. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Gray Maybe, the Gray Maybe podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're a repeat listener, I really, really appreciate you coming back and listening. If you're brand new, welcome. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I hope you consider listening to some more episodes coming up. Let's get into it. So, my guest today is a good friend of mine. We originally met in the bowels of bars. Oh, that's a great intro. In the bowels of bars. We're both performers. We met in dressing rooms and on stages, and we spent a lot of time on stage, off stage, in Japan, in the US. We have a lot of really good stories, fun times, and at one point, she was a roommate of mine. We spent even more time together. So definitely in our performing days, we spent a lot of time together. Now, this individual is also, I would label her a designer, an entrepreneur. She's also in a new line of work, which maybe she wants to tease or not. You might have to hear privately to hear about that. She's a witchy wonder. She's a goddess. She's all the things. And she is obviously a friend of mine. Her name is Amber Porter. Welcome to Gray Maybe, Amber. Hi. What's the new thing you're doing? Do you want to say it or no?
Yeah. It's been so fun. So I just got certified to practice QHHT therapy, which is
QHHT?
Okay.
Okay.
Quantum healing hypnosis therapy in the all things pioneered by Dolores Cannon. So there's like a lot of research and stuff behind it since the 60s. It's a lot of past life regression, higher self, a lot of people go into like healing this lifetime traumas and like traumatic memories and energy healing, all of the above. It's been so cool.
That's awesome. I'm glad you're willing to talk about that, because I think it's always great to put out things that people are doing, especially all different types of healing or seeking that people might be interested in. So we'll definitely put that in the show notes, and people will have ways to contact you about inquiring about that or looking it up as well. So look in the show notes for that. We talk all the time, like here and there on the interwebs and things. We keep in touch here and there. And I had posed a question on the gram about if anybody was willing to speak about abuse that they had experienced, and you hit me up, and of course, like, we're very close. I find us to be very close, and I feel very comfortable with you. So I was like, oh, amazing, because you have mentioned many things over time and space that qualify, and different levels of all of that stuff, and so it's not naturally, oh, I think of someone or I think of you, but I was just so happy that you hit me up in response that you were willing to talk about it, because I never know who's willing to talk about it. Well, and also who's like actually thinking and like identifying that that's some of the stuff that they've experienced, right? So first the recognition, and then second to be like, yeah, I'm ready to talk about it. So, would you feel comfortable just telling us a little bit about your story or your experience with different types of abuse or whatever you feel like sharing?
Totally, totally. I think my like history with abuse and experience with abuse is like multi-layered across, I would say, the majority of my lifetime.
You said you're like many lifetimes if I want to start.
Never being real. If you
It
want to
all
get into the
started.
quantum of it, it's
I was,
probably many lifetimes, and I'm here to full circle the
yeah,
lesson,
I
right?
was burned at the stake first, and then, sorry to interrupt, I had to, but yeah, so yeah, I mean, I think that's
Totally.
notable right off the bat, is that it doesn't necessarily even have to be a singular event of abuse. Like, this can be throughout our whole lives. There can be many little things. So sorry to interrupt. Keep
No,
going.
no, no. I think it's, I mean, even like I was living with you during the time of coming out of like, some pretty like heavy abuse. And I also think that like people think abuse is like one thing, right? Like it's got to be like really physical or stuff. I mean, it's anything from extreme neglect to, emotional abuse and, I don't know how much we can say, like sexual abuse.
Yes, you can say it
And
all.
yeah, I mean, I've experienced every gamut of it from the time I was a small child into adulthood,
Yeah.
you know? Um, what else can I say about it? I mean, the like childhood sexual abuse, that stuff's rough because obviously, like, you're a kid and you don't really understand the full scope of it until you
Yeah.
get to be an adult, and that really skews your sense of self and other people and like how you're supposed to relate to other people. Um, and even how adults maybe handle that stuff. I don't know about you, but like I think many kids that have like experienced stuff like that, like when their parents find out about it, or you go to them, or like they even witness a situation that seems questionable, the first like thing that kind of happens is like to deny it, brush it under the rug, pretend it never happened. Like it's very challenging to deal with, and I think it also, from like an adult perspective that doesn't understand what's happening, it it like pulls like their own sense of the world apart, right? So I think it's almost easier for people as adults when they see stuff like that happening, like, no, it didn't happen, that's
Right.
not real, not
Right.
like,
Stay in
we're
denial
gonna
so they don't
stay
have
in
to be
denial, of course.
traumatized by it as well, or have
Totally,
to.
because even like, I mean, could you imagine like you're now like a parent, like you wouldn't want that to be happening to your kids. So for
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
people, I think it was just easier to just be like, yeah, no, or like, what did you do? That's like a
Right.
really common thing, which we can talk more about as we get into this. But
Yeah.
then that
What
carried,
did you do to deserve that? What did you do to entice,
what did you do? What
antagonize?
did you do to entice it? Like, how did this happen? And then of course that carried forward into, all of my relationships, every single one.
Mhm.
And it was just like a reoccurring theme. Um, I felt, like just always like kind of like this overwhelming feeling of like abandonment and sense of self that you just never really reclaim when
Mhm.
that's taken from you. And then it's really hard to learn boundaries with people and like all the stuff that like happens. people pleasing and like picking bad partners and playing out, terrible stories with them and X, Y, and Z. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think you had mentioned like it really disrupts how to relate to yourself. And I think that's
Yes.
really poignant because if you don't have a relationship to yourself, it's kind of like how do you interact with everybody else? How do you like advocate for yourself? You can't, right? Like there's this
Yeah.
disconnect and it affects you in all your relationships. Um I am hearing over and over again the failure of adults to step in when they've been notified and told about abuse. And I don't know if this is generational because a lot of the people that I'm interviewing and talking to are around my same age, which puts us like young Gen X, elder millennial type age group. I've had like a younger person, I think, but like um and they had a different experience of that with their parents, but like it seems, I'm hoping it's generational, that was
I
something
think
that we
it's
had to deal with and it's
generational.
starting to
Yeah.
shift. um but that is like very common, and I think even if that wasn't common, it would be a common fear of people anyways. I think it's a natural
Yes.
fear, right, to not want to confide in these things, because even if you, well, I don't know. I guess I can't say even if you've been told not to keep secrets. I don't actually know that, but I on that side of it. But I think it's what happens to people when they've been abused is, I think, inherent that people feel like I did something. What did I do? I must be
There's so
responsible.
much shame involved,
Yes,
like
yes,
in it, right?
yes, yes.
So I think that's the like, I mean, how many countless people like in the Me Too movement could have come forward and said
Right.
they didn't because they're going to be victim blamed. I
Yeah,
mean, and even though they come forward, nothing happens. I can tell
yeah.
you I was raped 3 times as an adult and
Mm.
never told anybody
Right.
because who was going to believe me?
Yeah. And on top of that, it's like, okay, so then what? You tell someone, and what's supposed to happen? And let's say you tell the people that culture would tell you you're supposed to tell, like the police, and fill out a report and do the whole thing. So now you have to deal with a court case and be re-traumatized and do that whole thing. Like, I don't even like going to the doctor. Like, it's hard for me to make a dentist appointment. Jury duty, for fucking get about it. Like,
Oh yeah.
like,
No, like I mean, no.
like you're gonna like. I know those are adult things. I do them, whatever. But like, yeah, I don't want to be on the record saying I don't do jury duty. But I call, I do my thing. They say I don't need you. That's what I do. Anyways, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like that's one of the most undesirable positions to be put in, and to be put in not by your own choice. It's just I don't know what the alternative is other than like, hey, abusers, can you just stop abusing? Like, go to therapy, figure it out. But like, really,
Yeah,
like, you're requiring a victim to do so much stuff. Like, and people don't even want to do that much stuff without being victims of traumatic,
totally.
horrible things. So it's not surprising, like, you endure these situations. Like, who are you going to tell? What's the energy that's going to generate, and what for, and what's the outcome really going to be? Because we all know that, like, most of these people don't see any kind of retribution or recourse for their actions, right? It's always he said, she said. And even now, after Me Too, after Time's Up, after all these things, there are still people who very much are like, well, people lie. And it's like, are we still saying that?
Like, are we still doing that? I mean,
Are we still doing that?
I must have had this conversation the other day, like with somebody that's very smart and like you would never, and they were like, well, that girl seemed crazy. And I was like,
Are we still doing that?
really? Like, and it was in reference to, and
God.
I just so happened during this period of time to be running in a similar circle and watch this whole shit show go down. And I can attest from like in person experience the nightmare that that man is.
Yeah.
I had a girlfriend date him like immediately after, like the stuff that was going on was like legit. So when someone's like, I don't know, that girl seems really crazy and unhinged. And I'm
And it's
like,
like, oh, so just for the record, crazy and unhinged people deserve to be raped? Or what's the sentiment that they are crazy and they're making it up? Because a
Yeah.
lot of crazy people aren't saying that. And
No.
also, there's a lot of famous people or people in high positions that don't have allegations against them. So I'm just wondering if we could start believing maybe the ones that do.
And I mean, it's so hard for people that have never experienced that type of like abuse to understand that, like, for one, that's probably not their first situation. And for
Absolutely not.
two, to be like put in these really fucking gnarly dynamics where it's like they have to defend themselves. Like, you're groomed to being in that crazy situation anyway. And then by the time you're like screaming from the walls, like, no one's believing me, this crazy thing's going on, like, it's like crazy making.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they put you to your limit. Like, yeah, it's so nuts. And I've experienced that firsthand, right? The like
Right.
crazy making.
Right.
And then
And the
it's like,
gaslighting about it. You're not crazy. I
yeah.
made you crazy, but you're not crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's another abusive tactic, right? And I get like so tired of hearing people call victims crazy people, and usually it's like women, right? I
Mm-hmm.
like it's usually like, well, that chick's crazy, or that's crazy, and like again, it's the what did you do to deserve it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, hey, how about we stop doing that?
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
not that hard,
I'm with you on it. I like
you
that you
know?
said, um, talked about reclaiming the self, which I think is a powerful statement. Like, because you talked about going through abuse early in life kind of like severs that connection to the self. And then as you heal, the reclaiming of the self, I think, is a strong narrative for people who are seeking that kind of healing, like reclaiming the self, like getting your power back, right? Like really coming back home to yourself. And I think that's something that people who have suffered a lot of abuse may not even know who that is. It may take time to not only reclaim but refine and rebirth and like all of those things. I just love that you said that. I love the way that was said.
Yeah, and
You
I think
mentioned.
that takes, a radical act of strength and faith and putting in time. Like, it's not necessarily, it's not like linear, right? Like we say healing's not linear. It's really not.
Mm-hmm,
Um, it's just like it comes with time and perspective and whatever your preferred healing modality might be to like cope and manage, because
mm-hmm,
it forever changes you regardless.
mm-hmm,
You can step into your power and reclaim some of that and, not live life like a victim, but
mm-hmm.
it does kind of always change how you relate to the world.
Yeah, I agree to that. And the comment on time is definitely relevant, not only in, I just remember when I had my knee surgery, I would go to the physical therapist and they had like this chart. So, like, you would do your physical therapy, they would put all the stuff, like the notes into the computer, and they would chart your trajectory of your healing, essentially, right? That's what it is. It's like a
Yeah.
graph to show, your healing.
How you doing
And
better?
yeah, and it was like up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Like it was overall an upward trajectory, but in that trajectory was like stock market shit, man. It was like up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down.
Yeah.
Because every time I got stronger, I got less flexible, and every time I got more flexible, I got less strong. And as you're going through it, time to time, it can feel like you're getting worse, and then you get a little bit better, and then you feel like you've gotten worse, and then you get a little bit better. And I thought that was so interesting at the time. I hated it. I was like very miserable, but like, I've had enough time away from it now to look back and be like, oh yeah, totally. Healing is definitely not linear. It's not just like a constant upward, you know, climb.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the hardest things about healing is there will be some times where you're like, oh, I feel really great. I can see my progress. And then there's times that you're like, I feel like I relapsed. Like that, like I had a trigger or someone from my past who was very abusive reached out and talked to me, and it it triggered a bunch of trauma and PTSD, or I heard a noise on, the airplane that like then, or whatever it is, little things that sometimes you're not even aware of. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's why I was so on edge, or that's why I've been so nauseous, or, whatever. So thank you for saying that about time. I think it's a really important reminder to people, whatever your recovery journey is, whatever you're recovering from, it's not linear, and time does help. Like time. Sometimes it just takes time for some of this stuff to get better. You also mentioned like not having a lack of boundaries. I think that is, or not having a lot of boundaries, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a through line to a lot of people who have experienced abuse, is either they didn't have a ton of boundaries because either their family dynamic, the way they were brought up, didn't really cultivate that, or they were early abused, which like shreds all boundaries, right? And then as you get older and older, you don't really figure it out, or you're kind of always dealing with a lack of boundaries, and then they get crossed more and more and more and more, and you have less and less and less. And I see that as kind of a through line for a lot of people that are kind of going through and have experienced a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and it's really, I still struggle with that, right? Like, still, and putting myself first. I will do the exact opposite. Everyone else first, everyone else's needs. And a lot of that, understanding where I'm coming from is a reactive safety protective mechanism. Because if I can control the exterior situation of everything that's going on around me, then like I can be safe and be okay,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it still is very much a struggle to be like, okay, it's okay if I like do this thing today and just focus on me or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. It still is very much a struggle.
Yeah. And as you are like, as a kid, this is might be a different answer for different things that you've mentioned,
Totally.
but like when these things happen, did you consider, like, did you know that what you were experiencing was abuse when it happened, or did it take a long time? Like, this can be many different answers, because I'm sure, like, as a kid, maybe you don't know, and then as an adult, you do, but then you're just,
Totally. Like I think like my first memory of something weird happening is being caught in the basement with the neighborhood boys like pinning me against the wall and ripping my clothes off and my dad coming downstairs and being like,
what the fuck?
"What the fuck? Go home, put your clothes on." And it was very much like
Like, you
I
did
was in
something, like,
trouble.
yeah, what are you doing
I was
down
in
here?
trouble. And again, man of a different generation. Like my
Right.
father's 90
Yeah. How
and
old were you?
small. Like small. Like I don't even know if I'd started kindergarten yet.
Holy shit. I mean, it doesn't
I mean,
matter what age you are. I'm
yeah,
just
yeah,
trying to
yeah.
give like a perspective of like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
mind
And I like
frame.
same thing, like stuff like being chased. And I remember being in preschool and being chased by boys that wanted to kiss me and having
Mhm.
like full panic, like screaming terror meltdowns. And now I can like connect the dots of the two as to why that was like
So
such a
terrifying.
traumatizing. And my teachers used to laugh and be like, "Oh, they have a crush on you. It's so funny." And I was just like so traumatized by like a boy trying to kiss me on the cheek on the playground. Like, obviously as an adult, you're like, oh, because of all this other stuff that happened.
And can we also just take a pause from you continuing that question or answering that question to say how annoyed I am by the response of they hit you because they like you, or they
Yeah.
kick you because they like to young girls, as a
No,
way of like how you're supposed to deal with the violence of young men or boys, is
totally.
so what, to ignore them or like tolerate it because that's how they deal with their feelings. Like, I don't
You're
know
like,
if
no, because
that's
they grow up to be adults with big feelings that don't, and they can't cope with them. And then we are still on the receiving end of that. Still.
they just like me so much. They just like
Yeah.
me so much. They got to
Well, then
beat
it's
my ass.
ingrained in your head. And
Yeah.
then, like, that translates into, like, I don't know, 1,000 relationships where you're
Yeah.
just like, it's okay. He just did that because he cares, or
Right.
he's just having a bad day. He can't process this emotion. And because, we've been raised to, like, handle the other sex's emotions.
Hmm.
They're not raised to handle ours. Anytime
No.
I've cried in front of a boyfriend, they're like, what is going on? You're crazy. You need to calm down. Like, you know what I mean? And you're like, but I'm tired. I'm having a feeling. And like, I'm having this feel. Like, can we talk? And they're like, oh no.
Hmm.
But like, we're expected to deal
To
with the
carry
latter.
yeah, a lot of emotional labor, a lot.
Yeah.
Yes. So before I interrupted about they just
No,
kick you and
no,
chase you because they like you. Um, so as a young person, like you probably didn't recognize that that was abuse. Was there other stuff
no.
that happened as you grew up that you're like, that's that, moving on, or has it always been? For me, it's always taken time. Like I can never see it in its moment at all. Like it
Never.
takes, and sometimes it takes me a really long time. Like I'm still now, things will pop up in my head and I'll be like, that was definitely that or that was that. But like it's
Totally.
take a long time.
Yeah, no, it's taken like a lot of time. Also because I've been like a very driven and focused person in other ways.
Hmm.
And I just kind of was like the thought like from my earliest time, like I knew I would leave. I would leave like where I grew up living. I would leave like my parents behind, like for all their faults, whatever. Like they did the best they can, but I was like, I don't want any part of like this dynamic because on top of like, the trauma experience as a child, there was also like the not healthy family relation dynamic. And
Hmm.
I just was like, can't wait to get out. I'm just not even going to worry about it. I'm going to like look this way and just keep trucking forward.
Hmm.
It probably wasn't until my 30s where I was like, oh,
Yeah.
like
So it's
until
like
it
almost,
literally hit me in the face and I'm like calling you and you're like, dude. And I'm like, I know, I got to get out of here. And then like I sat and started to be like, oh, this has happened like a lot in my life
hmm,
in various ways
hmm, yeah. I mean, you're like in survival mode, right? You're just trying to survive. You
all the
get
time,
out, move
all
on,
the time.
like keep busy. I know you have always been such a hustler to like take care of yourself, and I
Yeah.
think that's like obviously like it's a great thing, but it's also like a learned survival, right? Like I have to make sure that I can cover myself because other people are disappointing and
Yeah. And they
are not
won't.
safe, and they're not safe for me, so like I've always known you to be such a go-getter, work so freaking hard, and also take care of people so hard, which is like all these like amazing traits until abusers and narcissists get a hold of that, and they're like, "This is amazing."
Yeah. They're like, this is great. What more can I just like suck out of you?
Hmm.
Totally. And I've
Yeah,
definitely done a few of those in a row.
yeah. Well, you're a very attractive candidate for them for that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're an attractive candidate, period, and then on top of that, you have that
No,
going for
I
you
know,
as
but
well.
even when you're like, I'm doing the work and I've figured it out and I recognize the red flags, it's like they changed the red flags all of a sudden. And then you're like in it and you're like, wait, how did I just,
How did I end up back here?
how did I, like, I thought I learned the lesson already. Why am I doing it again? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's really hard. It's hard. If anybody's ever been in these situations, you know that it's really difficult. It's difficult to change, and then it's difficult to get out of the patterns. Like it's just hard. Um has there been anything that like really surprised you about either processing like different abuses or in your recovery? Like was there anything that was like a huge light bulb moment or just like a surprise in how that went along or
I mean, I think that like exiting any type of abusive situation or like aha or whatever, it was always like, at first I was like really hard on myself. Like real, and I think people don't understand that. There's a lot with the victim shaming. It's a lot of like, well, how stupid could you be to get into that? Or like, why would you stay? Or like, why didn't you leave the first time it happened? All the stuff and the stories. I mean, like, we're so hard on ourselves for so many. I mean, like, maybe I could like liken it to this. You know, like when people really hate cilantro
Hmm.
and they think it tastes like soap. Like
Yes.
there's just some
There's a
people that
lot
are
of
like
people.
cilantro
Yeah.
tastes like soap, can't do it.
Yeah.
I it's like that. It's like it's so ingrained, but it's like the opposite where you're like, I love cilantro, I love salsa, like whatever. Like it's you're having to like change like your whole palate and it doesn't like click
You
in your
keep
brain.
you keep eating cilantro and you can't taste the soap, and everybody else is
Yeah.
like, this is
It
soap,
tastes
you're
like
eating
soap.
soap, what are you doing? And you're
Yeah.
like, I can't taste it, I can't taste
Yeah.
it. And they're like, it's soap, don't eat it. And you're like, but all my recipes have cilantro in it.
Yeah. You're like, I
How
don't
am I
get it. Like,
supposed to cook?
you're like, I don't see it. I don't get it. And so it's like, then you have to like go off of other people, but like, you're like, well, you don't want to do that because you can't live your life for other people. So you're trying to like redevelop this like intuition that you've abandoned and
Yeah.
you can't trust really, you know. So it's so interesting. I mean, like so hard on myself, like
I like
which
the
is totally the
cilantro
opposite.
metaphor, like
Yeah,
the
yeah, that's
metaphor
like literally what it is. Because
metaphor.
you're like,
Yeah.
it's, like it tastes like soap, and you're like, I don't know, it tastes like great. I love salsa. Let's put some more salsa on that.
But it's like that honing, that like your natural honing isn't work. It's like not quite working quite right or something. And
Yeah,
because of what's happened. And like you talked about it, like intuition. And I have such a hard time deciphering the difference between my intuition and my anxiety.
yeah,
And that's sucks because I have really good intuition. Like really, really good intuition. Coincidentally, I'm also highly anxious. So
yeah.
like,
Because you can feel everything, and but like what that goes hand in hand. Because same.
mhm,
I have great intuition if you want to ask me about somebody else or yourself or any other situation. But when it comes to me, I will start second guessing and
mhm,
making excuses and being like, that's not it. Because it is, it's your fractured sense of self. And that's what
mhm,
happens when you're a small child. There are a million behavior studies. Like, it's so hard to like reclaim that fully. I just like have accepted that it's going to be a lifetime, you
endeavor.
know,
Yeah.
endeavor. I mean, at some point you have to choose just to live your life and like,
Mhm.
okay, but like you're never just going to put a pin in it and call it a day.
Yeah. But I mean, I think anybody who struggles with anything, which everybody struggles with something, and if you don't, you're lying to yourself. You better figure it out. But like I think it's always like a lifetime thing. Like if you suffer from addiction, I do think you suffer your whole life. I think it's like if you're able to maintain sobriety, great. But like that doesn't mean that like you could pick up whatever you was that you were using and be like, I'm cool now. I'm good. I like, I won sobriety and now I'm fine. I can do it again. And I think that's with anything, and the healing from stuff like this, unfortunately, it may not have been a uh consented choice, like picking up a drug or doing something like that could be, but you have to deal with the consequences nonetheless, and it could be a lifetime of like figuring it out and trying to work on it so that you can deal with things better and better, or enjoy life more and more, um is there anything like that you can think of specifically that has helped this, like the process of you moving through things, or even like something that didn't help, like something that absolutely didn't help? Obviously, I think people asking you why did you get into this, or why didn't you do this, doesn't seem like it's very helpful.
Yeah, it's like not helpful at all. I mean, I spent time going to different types of meetings. I've spent time in different therapies. Um, I don't know, like talk there. It, obviously, like you can't hold it in and not speak about it. Like your secrets will make you sick. There
Yeah.
is scientific evidence for that.
Hmm.
Like it will make you sick. So you've got to speak about it, even if it's just to a close friend or somebody, just to like get it out there. I think my own spiritual belief system has helped me kind of like be able to see the bigger picture and navigate that a little
Mhm.
bit easier. I'm a believer that, we enter into this lifetime, we pick our soul contracts, and I know nobody wants to hear this, and it's really hard to hear this, but we co-create this like reality with other people. So, like, did I pick being abused as a child? Did I pick like I know it sounds disgusting. You're like, why would you pick that? I don't know. That was like the lesson I needed to learn in this lifetime was I guess to transmute all of these things and like see it from a different perspective to help
Mhm.
other people through it. Like that's
Mhm.
the only thing that kind of gives me some solace and like some relief to it because every time now when something comes up, I'm like, okay, well, what's the lesson in this?
Mhm.
Like, if I can detach from it enough, from like all my like triggering and like, my trauma and like having my meltdown about it, if I can just like take a minute and be like, what's the lesson? What's the purpose? What's this trying to teach me? It, there's something there,
Mhm.
probably a boundary. It's probably like, you know, lack of self love or, choosing the wrong people or you're not aligned in like whatever direction you're in.
Mhm. Yeah. And would you say the QHHT stuff that you think that's also has been a part of like your own
Oh,
personal
for
healing
sure.
journey? Yeah.
For sure, for sure. I read a Dolores book when I was like 19. But what are
Okay.
you going to do with that when you're 19, right? Like you
Right.
haven't lived enough. I had
You
experienced a
had
lot of shit,
so
but I
much
had,
more abuse to
yeah,
experience.
we
You
weren't
had
even
your
halfway down the road.
whole life of abuse yet waiting for you.
I need 20 more years of abuse to understand like what any of those books I read meant, right? And then
Yeah.
yeah. So it's been like kind of interesting. It was always kind of in there, but like wasn't ready for it,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And it's like any addiction or addict or thing that comes up in life, like advice, whatever, you will hear it when you're ready for it. And
Right.
I just like I was like, no, like let me be a victim some more,
Mhm.
and then let me like jump into like another red flag situation and create some more like traumatic situations for myself. And you know what I mean? Because as an adult, you have to accept some kind of responsibility
Mhm.
once you are aware,
Mhm.
right? Like, and that also, nobody wants to hear that in the moment. Pro tip,
Mhm.
like, if somebody's in the thick of it, do not give them this speech. They don't want to hear it.
No.
They can't recognize it. Like, you just need to, like, hold space for them, reassure them they need love and kindness to, like, feel full again. And when they're aware and healed to some extent outside of it and detached, then you can start having the like, why did I choose to do that to myself again
Mhm.
conversation, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's like anybody who's been through something like super traumatic, it's not the time to be like, if someone has been in a traumatic fire, it's not the time to be like, well, like, was your fireplace going that night? Like, how did this start? It's like, now's not the time. Like,
no, you're like a burn victim that needs like medical care.
you need a salve.
Yeah, when you're like scabbed over and ready, then you can go talk to the plastic surgeon about like skin grafts. Like, but not in the moment when you're like, I'm like
Yeah.
internally, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not the right time. And it may never be the right time, but it's certainly not the right time like then. Um,
Yeah.
you said one of my favorite quotes, which is your secrets keep you sick, or you're only as sick as your secrets, like that idea. And I wholeheartedly agree with that statement. Um, secrets feel like it's the nature of secrets to keep them inside, obviously, because that's what a secret is. But there's something about it. There's something about keeping information that is so kind of toxic to ourselves, yet the elixir for it is to set it free, and we don't want to do it. And I do think there's a big price to pay for that health eventually down the line.
Yes.
I don't know if you've read any of the material by Gabor Mate.
No.
He is all about like autoimmune and things like that
Yeah.
based on, and he's major credentials in the scientific and like world of physicians and stuff. So
Yeah.
if you happen to be very much on the data and science side of things, he checks those boxes. And also if you happen to be more on the metaphysical plane of things, he checks those boxes as well. So I'll put some links in
Yeah, I
the
do. I mean, like the spiritual woo woo and the scientific communities are definitely like catching up to each other right now,
mhm,
which I love. I love the blending of the two. Women have the highest rate for autoimmune diseases.
mhm.
We're
Why is that?
also like, the majority carrier of abusive emotions and just having to like suck it in and just keep it going and like just survive and like I mean
Mhm,
my mother's a perfect example, a perfect textbook example, experienced her own abuse, which, from a child and then continued into adulthood through multiple relationships. She's got cancer several times over, autoimmune diseases. I
mhm.
mean,
Right,
it's textbook that.
right. Yeah. Yeah, I really think that if you keep that stuff inside, you're going to pay for it in a way with your health. And that's not a threat. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but I'm just trying to encourage people to, health is not just what you eat. It's not just your exercise. It's not just your mantras. Your health is, you know, your body reacts to your emotions. Like if you've ever been through, somatic therapy stuff, cognitive behavioral therapy, like any of that kind of stuff, like a lot of it is based on like how does your body feel. So if your body is reacting to your feelings, whether you're aware of it or not, your body does, because that's what, our body, we're like animals, so we react to things. Um and so there has to be some kind of a correlation, and there's gonna be a price to pay if that is ignored or pushed down or repressed and suppressed. Um, yeah, I mean, I love that you said that. I also like to see the two uh, spheres kind of coming together in one, and as a whole body treatment. I think a lot of times in Western medicine or medicine in general, there's a discount to your mental and emotional well-being and spiritual well-being. Although, they always mention it. They're like, well, are you stressed? That's like code for what else is going on, right?
Yeah,
Like stress can cause, like you need to take stress, eat well, that kind of stuff. Then it's mentioned, but I still don't think the care and attention is on it as much as if you're
totally.
fully holistic. Like there's a lot of attention on that, so I love to see those things coming together as well.
Yeah.
Um, is there a reason why you think there's so much stigma and shame surrounding abuse? Like I don't know, why either. Like I can't figure it out because it is weird
Yeah.
because when it happens to me, I feel the same. I feel shame, stigma, whatever. When I hear other people, I'm like, you have nothing to be ashamed of. This is
Right.
that, like it's so
You
clear
want to
when
rah rah around them. You're like, fuck this, I
I'm
don't.
constantly like, when I hear other people's stuff, I'm like, oh, you have nothing to feel ashamed of. But I just, for myself, I'm like, oh, this is really, like, I don't want to talk about it, so I don't know what that, I don't have an answer. I was just wondering if do you have any answers for me?
I don't have an answer either as to like, I mean, I guess it could be like a complicated one, right? Like one position of being like in power and control and like the ingrained just kind of culture around it is is what it is on this planet at this time,
Mm,
right? I mean, nobody wants to be like bothered with your drama, right? Like nobody wants to be attached to that energy because that could like personally affect them in some way
mm-hmm,
if you're like speaking out or, you know, ruffling feathers in that kind of way. Or, I mean, I just like the like cognitive dissonance of like just really destroying. your worldview that some people just aren't capable of dealing with, right? Like when they witness abuse.
Hmm.
Um, I just like to me, it just feels like it's been just like a culture for so long. And I don't know if it's like, the empathy thing where like people have a hard time like feeling for someone that's been in that situation because they haven't been in that situation, which if you haven't, I am so glad for you.
Hmm.
I think you and I have joked before
How nice for you.
a couple different things where we're like, I am either like, oh wow, you must have never had anything bad happen to you if you can act like that.
You are
Like,
so well adjusted. That is so nice for you. What is that
yeah,
like?
like,
What is that like?
okay, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
otherwise, I'm like, why are you talking about it like that or treating that person in that way that has
Yeah.
experienced that? So, I mean, I guess that's my only thing is like, oh, it's just like a culture of what's been like, bred around it.
Yeah.
And that's to purely discredit the victim, right?
Right.
And benefit
The
one
abuser.
party.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because like it's the like when anything happens, there's ripples to it, right? When somebody passes away, there's ripples of grief through many people and many things based on your proximity to that situation. And I feel like it's the same with abuse. Like if there's abuse in the family, the ripples through the family, right? Of okay, what do we do with this information? Do we just, you know, quiet the victim so that we don't have to deal with ostracizing the family member who most likely is probably an elder adult who either demands a lot of respect or people want to give them a lot of respect, or if there's a ripples through a professional situation and the person in question who's abusing is of great power and stature, which often happens, and then people don't want to be the first one to speak up or they don't want to be one of the many to speak up because either way you're going to be punished for that. Whether you're the only one, it's like, well, there's only one person, or if there's many, it's like, oh, they're all looking for money. It's just like
Yeah.
there's a no-win situation. And I'm just like, it's so crazy because the shame and the stigma should be on the person abusing, and it should never be on the person who's been abused or the victim in the situation. Yet we see it time and time and time and time again. Like our culture, the way we deal with it is that's just not how it works. And I mean, I'm sure the person who's abusing, well, actually, I'm not sure. I would assume they have their own shame, and that's why a lot of them are acting out and abusing. But then again, maybe a lot of these people really don't have much insight to their own psyche, and they are sociopathic or narcissistic or whatever. I don't know, have some kind of condition that makes them, impermeable to empathy or whatnot. I'm not sure, but it's a difficult question that I thought I'd ask you with no answer that I have myself, but that was an excellent answer.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's like, it's all of the above, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm always just like, why, like, for me, because my trauma has been, and my abuse has always been at the receiving hands of men. And
Mhm.
while I don't really ever want to be like man hater, like, I'm really like not, and I kind of, uh, really guide against people doing that. But for me, I'm like, we need to start raising boys to, be better,
Mhm.
handle their emotions. I mean, like men get abused too.
Mhm.
Men
Mhm.
experience sexual abuse and
Mhm.
same thing. And even like if they've experienced something like that and then they turn into an abuser, well, you don't raise men to have feelings
Mhm.
and like express them or to talk about it or and then like
Right.
that just like perpetuates like a cycle.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm like, it's we got to do better as, I don't have kids, but like as moms and like
Mhm.
people in the community and as caregivers. And like when you see something, like it's okay to like offer maybe some like guidance if you're
Mhm.
close with somebody or
Mhm.
some words of wisdom or, you know,
Yeah. I mean, this just proves that sexuality is not a choice because if you could choose,
If
You
I
would.
could literally, I'm like, man, if I could date chicks, it would just be like over and over again. I'm just like,
Yeah.
and then it'll like get to the point like where I've like many times where I'm like, I'm done. I think like it's fine. I'm just not gonna date anymore. That's the solution.
Yeah.
And then I'll like go like for a while like no dating and like think everything's better. I'm like so much better. Everything's great. And then I like find myself and I'm like, oh, here's like a triggering situation with somebody else or
Yeah.
like it
Yeah.
just yeah
I mean, that's always like also like a codependence kind of MO. I'm not saying you are a codependent. I'm saying like we talk about codependency a lot this season, and like one of those things with codependency is like I'm okay if you're okay, that kind of thing. And
yeah
also it's I know some codependents that will do that. They will go like these stark, like almost kind of like cold turkey sober, right? Like I'm
yeah
not gonna date, I'm not gonna do any of this stuff. And then it's like not much longer it's like, oh, I met a new person, and like because that's their deal. But that's
totally.
they're not necessarily in abusive relationships. They may just get super enmeshed, and it might be hard for them to then unenmesh and find themselves again wholly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely, I think with boys and young men, I'm hoping there's some kind of a quantum shift, because exactly like you said, if a lot of these men have uh experienced abuse, where does that go if they are not encouraged to heal from it like women? At least women are encouraged and expected to heal. We're actually
Yeah.
even just expected to heal. Like
We're
you guys,
expected to.
yeah, that's just what you do, right? Um, but men, there's no expectation, and there's not even really an honoring of that this stuff happens to them. I mean, I think we're starting to get a little better with it. Like obviously people understand now that men can be abused, that this does happen to boys and young men. And so there is that conversation happening, which I think opens the door obviously up to much more healing and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, how do we stop that cycle? And it freaks me out because I feel like we just started really recognizing that, honoring that, and putting some focus on it. And now I feel like there's like a concerted effort culturally to like maintain a really weird idea of masculinity that I think is not helpful. Like it's the antithesis of where that would go, is like men being more in touch with their feelings and being more emotionally intelligent does not make them weak, right?
No.
And it doesn't. Men, helping women with childcare and housework and equal duties does not make them little bitches or whatever, like, which is also a female slang term, right? Like all the slang terms you want to call them are a slam on women, like pussy, little bitch, like,
Totally.
effeminate, soy boy, like limp wrist, like all that shit. It's an attack on that, it's like they're all like women or possibly even gay men, like
Yeah.
slams, right? So it's like,
Absolutely.
I hope that we can do better with that. I think it's a really good point you bring up. And I hope that as this next generation of boys, it's just better. It's better than what they had, and it'll be better going forward. Um, let's see. I have kind of one last big question for you. And
Give it.
yeah, give it to me. I'm ready. So on the podcast, a lot of times I say that we don't give advice, but sometimes we give suggestion. Um, do you have a suggestion or suggestions for someone who might be suffering from abuse right now?
Ooh, it's a tough one. You have to have somebody you can confide in. You have to tell somebody. Someone has to know something. Um, if only for no other reason than if something happens to you, people know why. And that's a really dark reasoning, but if nobody knows, and I mean, like, I can't even, I hate that like, this is the world we live in, but if nobody knows and, you end up dead or disappear or whatever it is, like, I mean, that's the most tragic of circumstances, right? Then at least there's something to go on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like obviously the worst case scenario, but even for your own health, and tell somebody that understands if it's a phone call, a meeting, something else. Like, don't call someone that's like, you need to leave and exit this situation right now,
Right. Right.
because that's not always going to be possible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think a lot of people don't understand that one either.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to find some semblance of community for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
because when you don't have that, and I've been in this situation many times where I'm isolated, and then I tend to self isolate when things get like really difficult because I don't know how to deal with them, and I
Mm-hmm.
want to just deal with it, and I don't want to like bring my drama and da 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 da. But like, there's no like kind of escape from it, from like how you feel, from your perspective, from the relief of the situation. So I think it's really important to have some kind of like outside community or a friend that you can confide in. I mean, it really makes a difference.
And how, like, looking back at some of those moments in your life where you would self isolate, like, what finally were you able to do to kind of pull yourself out in those moments? Do you
I
recall,
think it
like,
had to get like so bad. I think it had to get like so bad to where, I feared for my life.
mm,
Either it was like from the hand of my abuser or from the situation, because the only way out that I saw was me ending my own life.
mm, yeah,
I think that's something else like we don't talk about,
mm-hmm,
like in abusive situations, where
mm-hmm,
how like beaten down the other person can get. And
mm-hmm,
because we take it on and we're so hard on ourselves, like the only option seems to be a dramatic exit strategy
yeah,
to like, make it stop. So I would say that those were like kind of the only times that I was like, okay.
mm-hmm, yeah,
Because I
it kind
know,
of,
like, on the regular, I'm not like that person, right? I'm
mm-hmm,
not like, I'm just gonna, like, I'm having a bad day. Let me just, like, end it all. Like, it would have to get, like, really,
right,
really dark.
right,
And that was
right.
the only time that I was like, okay,
That's your
this
rock
is
bottom.
my, like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. There is well, first of all, I want to address your suggestion, which I think is absolutely true, and it is dark, but it's necessary. You have to tell someone. You got to find someone that you can confide in, you know. And I think the mistake that a lot of people make when they hear that information is that they feel like they need to fix it or get like you said, get the person out right away. And it's like that may not be first of all, it's not your job. Like what the best thing I think a lot of people can do is when they hear information like that, hear what the person is saying. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. Please, if there's any way I can help, I want to be helpful to you. What can I do to help? Is there anything I can do to help? And sometimes it's just hearing it. And not everybody has the capacity to hear that kind of stuff and not let it fuck them up. But if you can hold space for someone to hear it and just let them process by telling you, validate their experience. That doesn't mean you need to tell them what to do. Just validate, wow, that's really scary. Wow, that's really terrible. You must be really traumatized. This must be really scary. This must be really hard. I'm sorry this is happening to you, right? And then offer them some kind of help. Like if you need a place to stay, you can always come here, or I can help you find a place, or if you need me to come grab your stuff, like, just the offer the solutions. And then if they never call you again or don't say a thing, because they're ashamed or they're not ready or whatever it is, you know that they had that conversation. So if something happens, you had that interaction. So I really encourage people to make that phone call or make that connection, like Amber said. Um, because abuse is progressive. Okay. It's a progressive situation. No one, is, you know, in an abusive situation that just got better. Unless there's
No.
like some other thing, like, oh, when they drink, they become this person, but otherwise they're not. And then now they're sober and it's fine. Okay, maybe. But like people who are abusing on the daily or whatever that cycle is, like it is a progressive scenario. Like usually people who are abusive continue to be abusive and they get more and more abusive and it accelerates, right? Like
And it
everything,
gets
it gets
and
a
it gets worse when you try to like detach from it
right.
and you know it try to leave.
Yeah.
Like it that's when things could potentially get to be their scariest.
Yes. I
So it's
agree. Yeah.
you know
We hear that a lot in culture and media and probably through people we know. You mentioned the suicidal nature of feeling like that was kind of like your rock bottom. It reminded me of this series. Was this series? It's a series called Made, and it's got Margaret, what's her name? She's Andy Dowell's daughter. She's very popular right now. She was just in The Substance. But there's this series that came out a couple years ago called Made, MAID. And it's an excellent portrayal of a young woman trying to navigate her way out of poverty. But there is a scene in there where she has a not categorically abusive thing, but like abuse with her baby daddy, on, off, boyfriend, husband person, and something happens, like there's like a moment of abuse, and the whole series is very based in reality. It all of a sudden goes to her melting physically into the couch, melting, like just melting into the couch. It goes complete like fantasy, like the visuals of it, it just goes, and it's, to me, that was symbolic of that type of depression.
it is. I mean, it's so overwhelming. Like you could not be in a financial position. Like who know? Like, do you have children? Is it intertwined? Are your lives intertwined? Are your social circles intertwined? Like, you know, very often the abuser turns out to be somebody that everybody loves and you're
Very
annoying.
charismatic, very well
Yeah.
liked and loved. Yes, that is not uncommon.
And you're, the annoying one. And then it's like, okay, so now I'm going to lose like my social circle and all these like repercussions. And it just starts to feel like so much and you're tired and drained. So the like thought of also trying to even pull it together
Hmm.
to be like, so what's my next move is overwhelming.
Yes. Yes. Being in abusive situations is also, as we've mentioned in some of the other episodes, is extremely exhausting. And
Yeah.
to make a big life change, if you're not ready, or even when you are ready, it's really, really difficult. It takes a lot of energy when you're already depleted spiritually, emotionally, physically, all those things. I think that's a very important point. Um, I'm going to put a lot of stuff in the show notes. We'll have your QHHT stuff in the show notes. We'll have Made the movie, or sorry, series I just mentioned. We'll have Gabor Mate in there, a bunch of stuff. But Amber, thank you so much for
Yeah, of course.
I got to catch up with you a little bit, but I'm so
Of
so thankful. Thank you so much for taking the time and talking.
course.
I've always found you to be like so matter of fact about your experiences and willing to talk about them in such a shameless way that I really appreciate. So, whatever you're feeling about them, like it doesn't come off that way. And I think it's really empowering to see someone model that? So, I
Yeah, I mean,
appreciate that.
we don't have to be our traumas,
Mm,
you know. We don't that doesn't have to be the end of our story. It can just be part of it. And if, anything that I've said is a takeaway and like let it be that.
hmm
Like and if anything, is helpful to anyone because it is a lot. It's a lot to endure.
Yeah. And, you don't have to you don't have to be identified by your traumas in this lifetime or all the past ones, and if you want to explore them, call Amber and she's going to work through it with you. I mean it, like, like there's I have all different types of people on the pod, and some people, like I have Jada who always comes on. She's a psychologist. You can hit her up or be directed towards that. I'm going to send you people. People should hit you up if they want to do that type of work as well. I think it's awesome and very cool. But yes, Amber, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Amber has always been one of my favorite matter-of-fact people. She is no bullshit, tell it like it is, and wears her heart on her sleeve. When she loves hard. And if you've ever been lucky to have been taken care of by her, be it a meal or a listening ear, you know exactly what I'm talking about. People don't deserve abuse, especially people like Amber. But Amber's resilient. She's learned how to survive again and again and have a sense of humor while she does it. It's so exciting to see her utilize all her talents and fully step into her power. I'm so grateful she was willing to share her experiences and tell a bit of her story on Gray Maybe. If you're listening to this episode and you have or are currently experiencing abuse, I'm sorry and welcome. I hope this helps your journey. You're not alone. Just a reminder for anyone who needs to hear it. The definition of abuse is when someone causes us harm or distress. It can take many forms, ranging from disrespect to causing someone physical or mental pain. It can occur in someone's home, a care home, a hospital, or a public place. Often, the people who commit abuse are taking advantage of a special relationship. The legal definition of abuse is as follows. The term abuse means the knowing infliction of physical or psychological harm, or the knowing deprivation of goods or services that are necessary to meet essential needs, or to avoid physical or psychological harm. You don't need to have been punched in the face or sexually assaulted to experience abuse. Know that whatever you are feeling, there are those among us that have probably felt it too. You are not alone. If you're listening and you have someone you love in your life that is enduring abuse, you are also welcome. You are also not alone. It's hard to watch someone be hurt and feel powerless to help them. I've included various links in the show notes for help and support. If you made it this far, thank you so much for listening, and I hope you were able to find something relatable in today's episode. If you'd like to show your support for this podcast, consider donating on Spotify, or rate, share, comment, and subscribe. As I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, this is also a social experiment to see if in telling my stories, I can embolden listeners to share their stories. If you'd like to share a story on this topic, anonymous or otherwise, on the podcast, please email greymaybestories@gmail.com. greymaybestories@gmail.com. Thank you to everyone who helped make this Gray Maybe podcast happen. Producer and editor Roderick Barge. Cover photo by Jose Perez. Music licensed by Pixabay. Special counsel Jada Ellingham and Roderick Barge. Special shout out to supporters Patty Olgan and Jeremy McCullen. Until next time, bye for now.